The morning sunlight spilled across the sleek marble floor of the towering glass building that housed the headquarters of Royce Enterprises, a billion-dollar tech empire run by the elusive and notoriously focused billionaire Alexander Royce, who, despite his success, was known for his cold demeanor and total disinterest in anything unrelated to his company. Employees often whispered about his past, claiming he never let anyone close, especially after he walked away from his small-town life. And Never Look Back Today was supposed to be like any other, a list of scheduled interviews for a new executive assistant position Alex considered trivial but necessary. His HR team had lined up a dozen candidates, and the last one on the list was a woman named Claire Bennett, a single mother who had arrived in the city just a month ago. Carrying little more than a suitcase, a child, and a heart full of quiet desperation, she entered the building, dressed simply but neatly, holding the tiny hand of her daughter Lily, who wore a sky-blue dress and clutched a small stuffed bunny in her arm. Claire knew it was unorthodox to bring a child to a job interview, but she had no one to leave her with, and the risk was worth it because this job could change everything for them. When her name was called, she stepped into the office with Lily close by, and the moment Alexander looked up from his tablet, his eyes flickered not with irritation but confusion. A strange and almost startled pause broke the usual rhythm of his efficient world as he stared at the child, her dark curly hair, the small birthmark near her left eyebrow. Something about her felt strangely familiar. Claire sat down politely, apologizing for bringing Lily, but Alex waved it off mechanically, returning his gaze to the resume in his hand. His usual questions came out, but there was a distance in his tone, a rare flicker of distracted thought dancing in his expression. Claire answered confidently. Years of struggle had taught her to remain composed under pressure, and though her voice was steady, her heart beat furiously. She could feel the weight of years crashing into this moment, and she knew she had to say it. She couldn't walk out of this room without telling him, without giving her daughter the truth, the life she deserved. As Alex began wrapping up the interview, Claire gently rested her hand on the edge of his desk and said quietly, "Mr. Royce, I need to tell you something. This is not just a job interview, and Lily is not just my daughter. She is also yours." The room went still, as though time had taken a breath. Alex blinked, the words hanging heavy in the space between them. He leaned back slowly, his fingers curling around the armrest of his chair, trying to process what had just been said. He glanced again at the child, and the recognition that had been scratching at the edge of his memory suddenly roared to the surface. He remembered Claire, the young woman he had loved and left years ago during college, the one he thought he'd left in the past with nothing but a regret he refused to acknowledge. She had vanished from his life without a word, and now here she was, holding the hand of a little girl who looked impossibly like his younger sister when she was that age. Alex stood slowly, his face pale and uncertain. His world, one of charts, deadlines, and control, had just been shattered. Claire stood too, clutching Lily's hand tighter, bracing for rejection, the kind of cold, hard refusal she knew he was capable of. But instead Alex whispered, "How can you be sure?" Claire's eyes filled with tears. Not anger, but a quiet sadness that only someone who had carried truth alone for too long could hold. She told him the timeline, the dates, how she tried to reach out through letters sent to his old address, how she waited and waited before giving up and choosing to raise Lily on her own. He was already far into his corporate ascent, unreachable and buried in ambition. Claire had watched him from a distance through news articles and magazine covers, knowing that one day her daughter would ask questions she couldn't answer forever. Alex looked at Lily, who was now fidgeting with the corner of her dress, sensing the tension, and he crouched down in front of her, his voice gentle. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Lily," she said softly. "Are you really my daddy?" She asked, her eyes wide and innocent, and the words crushed him more than any market failure ever could. Claire reached for Lily, but Alex stood up suddenly, excusing himself and walking out of the room without another word. Claire stood, frozen, her heart dropping as she watched the door close behind him. She wondered if she had made a mistake, if she had shattered whatever peace she and Lily had finally found, but she had spoken the truth, and now it was his to face. Claire remained standing in the office, her hands still clutching Lily's as the seconds ticked by like hours, her throat dry and her heart sinking with each passing moment, but she held herself together for her daughter's sake, whispering comforting words to keep Lily from growing anxious, even though the child's wide eyes showed she could sense something heavy had just happened. Claire didn't know whether to wait or leave, whether Alex would come back with answers or guards, but she stayed, her feet rooted by the years of hope and the sheer weight of truth she had carried alone all this time. Meanwhile, Alex stood in the empty hallway staring out of the large glass window that overlooked the city. He had conquered this view usually. Made him feel powerful now, it only made him feel small. The image of that little girl's eyes haunted him. They were his eyes and Claire's smile, and every inch of her face screamed the truth he had tried to escape. So many years ago he hadn't meant to leave Claire not like that, but back then he had been terrified, young, foolish, hungry for success, and scared that love would slow him down. He had pushed her away, told himself it was for the best, convinced himself she would be fine, and that he was choosing a better life now. The consequences of that choice stood on the other side of the office door, with pigtails and a stuffed bunny. He didn't know how to face them. He didn't know how to go back, but something inside him refused to walk away this time. He walked back into the office slowly, his face pale, his heart pounding, unsure of what to say, but knowing that silence was no longer an option. Claire turned as the door opened, her face calm but unreadable, as if bracing herself for whatever was coming, and Alex walked up to her, looked her in the eyes, and said, "I don't know what kind of father I'll be. I don't know if I even deserve a chance, but I can't pretend anymore." "I know she's mine," Claire said, nothing at all. First only nodded and lowered her gaze, her shoulders trembling slightly, not from fear but relief. Because after all these years, someone else was finally carrying the weight of that truth too. Alex turned to Lily, kneeling again, this time not as a CEO, but as a man learning to be something else entirely. He reached out his hand and asked, "Can I take you and your mom for lunch?" She nodded, slowly, unsure but curious, and in that small moment, a bridge began to form. They walked out together, Claire, quiet, Lily skipping beside them, while the receptionists and staff, who had seen hundreds of people enter and leave in silence, watched in stunned disbelief as their stoic boss walked through the lobby holding a little girl's hand. They sat at a quiet restaurant where Claire told Alex everything, the years of raising Lily alone, the jobs she took to make ends meet, the way she would trace Alex's face in magazine covers, wondering what she would say if she ever saw him again. Lily sat beside them, happily sipping juice, oblivious to the gravity of their conversation, until Alex asked her what she wanted to be when she grew up, and she answered with a giggle, "I want to be like Mommy, strong and smart and a little bit bossy." Alex laughed. Truly laughed for the first time in years, and something inside him began to thaw over the following days. He asked Claire to let him spend more time with Lily, and though cautious, she agreed, setting boundaries and rules. He respected them all, showing up on time, bringing books, toys, and asking endless questions about Lily's favorite things. Slowly, they moved from awkward meetings to warm afternoons in the park. From guarded silences to shared stories, Lily grew attached to him, not because he was rich or charming, but because he listened, remembered, and always kept his promises. One afternoon, she drew a picture of the three of them, holding hands with the sun smiling above, and gave it to him proudly. Alex stared at it for hours after they left, tracing the crayon lines like they were the blueprint to a life he never knew he wanted. One evening, as they sat on Claire's small porch while Lily played with chalk on the sidewalk, Alex turned to Claire, his voice low. "I was a coward back then. I thought leaving was strength, but I see now it was fear. You deserved more." She looked at him, eyes soft but steady. "We all deserve more." "Alex, not just me, but her too." He nodded and said, "I want to make it right, not just legally or financially, but with every part of who I am. I want to earn your trust and hers." She didn't answer right away, but she didn't turn him away either, and that was enough. In the weeks that followed, Alex began to change, not in grand gestures, but in subtle ways. Canceling meetings to attend Lily's school events, building a playroom in his apartment, reading bedtime stories over video calls. When Claire had night shifts one day, Lily fell sick and Claire called in a panic. Alex arrived in minutes holding soup, medicine, and a worried look, pacing like any nervous father would, until the fever broke that night. He sat beside Lily, watching her sleep, and whispered, I didn't know you existed, but now that I do, I'm never letting go. It was the first time." Claire let herself cry, not out of pain but gratitude. A few months later, Alex invited both of them to accompany Gala and introduced Claire not as an assistant, not as an old friend, but as someone important to him, and Lily as his daughter. The moment was quiet yet powerful, a silent declaration that shook the room more than any business announcement. Claire stood by his side, elegant yet humble, and Lily twirled in her little dress, stealing hearts and questions. The media had a field day, but Alex didn't care. He was finally writing a story he wasn't ashamed of. Months turned into a year, and though the journey wasn't perfect, they walked it together. Co-parenting, learning, forgiving, and slowly rebuilding trust. Alex was no longer just a powerful CEO. He was a father with crayon drawings in his office lunch dates, with a chatty 7-year-old and quiet evenings where he no longer felt alone. Claire continued working part-time, pursuing her dream of opening a small bookstore, and Alex helped not with money, but with belief when they cut the ribbon on opening day. Lily held both their hands and shouted, "Our dream came true." The crowd clapped, but the only applause that mattered was the one in Claire's eyes, the silent thank you for showing up, for staying, for choosing love over ego. They never rushed into labels or tried to rewrite the past. But in every small act, in every shared laugh and quiet conversation, they built a future not just for Lily but for themselves. To a future where second chances weren't just dreams, but daily decisions made with courage, patience, and love.